Hey y'all, I wanted to spend a few more minutes talking about this particular topic because I think it's really important. And this idea of how marketing is changing and how that change is being fueled by the technology we're now using and how that impacts how customers are connecting with each other and communicating with each other. I wanted to spend a few more minutes talking about that because I think it's really important. And I think it's very important because I don't think a lot of brands and companies really understood and really understand what the change is. I think they get the whole idea of now we have all these digital tools and we need to incorporate them into our marketing strategies, but I don't think they really understand and fully appreciate how those tools are also being used by their customers. And those tools are being used by their customers, and that's changing the marketing dynamic. And that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit today. Because really, up until the past couple of decades, this is how it works. You make a product, then you use marketing to get the attention of your customers and help them understand why they need the product, and then that leads to sales. It's a pretty simple formula. Make the product, add on the marketing. The marketing is supposed to make the product look as sexy, attractive as possible, and then that's going to lead to sales. And again, the idea is use the marketing as a channel to get the attention and to make the customer interested in buying the product. And really, a lot of times the marketing was flashy. It was designed to get attention. It was designed to really, a lot of times, get the attention of customers that are paying attention to something else. So it could seem maybe interrupting, but the idea was just get the attention, flash, and make the product look attractive, look sexy, and then hopefully the marketing would help lead to the sale. Something that really started rolling my gears when I started working on Think Like a Rockstar was looking at how rock stars take that same approach, but they tweak it. And the way they tweak it is very important because rock stars, they have a product, but instead of putting marketing on top of that product, instead they have a direct connection with their customers and especially with their biggest fans. And that's really important because what happens as a result of that direct connection, then that direct connection helps drive the sales. And really, with the rock stars, it's like they're almost substituting this direct connection and this desire to be closer to their fans. That's almost taking the place of marketing in a brand context. So I think that's really interesting because if you look at that, I think this is more in line with where brands and companies need to go today. And I think to that point, rock stars are really ahead of the curve here because brands and companies are now in a situation where they need to get closer to their customers because, and we'll talk about this in a second, but customers are so connected to each other. And as a result, the brand needs to be more connected to the customers because the flow of information and the flow of communications has changed. It's gone from being the company connects directly to the customers to now the customers are interconnected. The rock stars, they connect with their fans, and then the fans, to a great extent, are driving their marketing efforts because, again, rock stars understand that the world we live in now, which is a world they've always lived in, but the world that brands and companies are operating in now is a world where they're trying to connect with customers, but those customers are, for the first time, they're interconnected. For example, up until, again, we had these digital tools, word of mouth was basically locked in an offline world. It was in an analog world where word of mouth was a very powerful thing and still is, but it was mostly landlocked in a local setting. If you wanted to talk about a brand, if you wanted to share your feelings, your thoughts, your ideas about a brand, you effectively had to do it in a local context. And this was simply because of the technology available at the time. Because let's think about it. 1990, if you have a good or a bad experience with a local brand or a global brand, how are you going to take your experience and relate it to others? What's the technology available to you at the time? Let's say it's 1990. Well, you probably don't have a cell phone. You probably don't have internet access. You've got a landline at home. You probably don't have email. So, and even if you do, most of the people you would connect with, they probably don't have these tools. So basically, you still have analog tools available to you. You have snail mail. You can write a letter. You can pick up a landline phone, but otherwise, other than just talking face to face with somebody, that's pretty much all you have available to you. So that's why I say that up until these digital tools, word of mouth was really landlocked in a sort of local setting, because your ability to get a message out, good or bad, about a brand is basically confined to your ability to talk to people one-on-one, either via face-to-face or on the telephone, or you could write a letter. But this is where everything has changed, because now word of mouth is global. Now suddenly, all of us that have internet access, that have smartphones, that have tablets, that have laptops, we have the ability to get our messages out there. Our messages and our word of mouth have gone from being offline in a local setting to now they've moved to online. And when they move to online, suddenly we all have the ability to connect with each other. And suddenly the balance of power has shifted from the brand to the consumer and the customer. Now the customer has the ability to connect with each other. And that's incredibly powerful. And this is where I don't think a lot of companies have really adapted, because they're still focused on, okay, how do we take these digital tools and leverage them as selling channels and incorporate them into our existing marketing strategy? That's only part of it. You still have to consider how your customers are using these tools, and that's almost as well, it's more important. Now, the 3 ways, and we talked about this in the post, but I want to touch on it again. 3 ways your marketing needs to adapt before it dies. First is be less promotional. And the idea here is to focus on the benefit more than the product. Think about, how are your customers using the product? What are they trying to accomplish? Are they trying to solve a problem? Are they trying to build something? Are they trying to create something? Because the thing about it is, when you look at all of these, you have to consider, again, and as I mentioned in the post, that most of the time we're getting our information from each other. It's not 20 years ago where our only information about a brand pretty much was coming from the brand. Now our information about a brand is coming from other customers. So in that context, your marketing has to adapt to be more in line with what we're expecting, because again, most of our information is coming from each other. It's not coming from you. So you need to consider that, and you need to think about, okay, what type of information are customers passing along, and what are they not? What do customers see as being valuable information that they need to pass along? They talk less about the product in most cases, and they talk about what you're trying to do with the product. I bought this because it helped me do this. I bought this because it solved this particular problem I had. It's more about what they used the product for. It's more about what they did because of the product. I bought this product because I needed something to help me do this, this, or this. I needed to get rid of this, this, or this. I needed to make this, this, or this. The idea is to focus less on the product and focus more on how we're using the product. And also be more useful, because again, you have to think about it. How are we communicating with each other, and what type of content are we sharing? We're sharing content that's useful to us. If your content is useful to us, then we're going to pass it on to other consumers. So that you need to think about, less about being promotional, and you need to think about, how are we exchanging ideas? What type of information are we passing along? If it's valuable to us, we'll pass it along to someone else. And you need to think about, how can I make my marketing more useful? This again is why we're seeing a lot of white papers, ebooks, etc., focused on how-tos, steps, the 10 steps to this, the 5 steps to it's all of these list post content, etc. They get passed around because they're valuable. I mean, they're useful to other people, and you need to think about, how can I make my marketing more useful and more valuable to the people that are going to be interacting with it. And finally, be more human. And this is one of those things that it's easier to say that than it is to do it, obviously. But again, you have to consider the people that are interacting with each other. What are they talking about? What tone are they using? They're speaking to each other in their own voice. And again, you have to make your marketing be more in line with what we're expecting. You know, if you're talking in a different voice than what we're used to, or that what we're used to hearing, it's not going to resonate as much. But if you can talk to us in a voice that we're used to hearing, our own, you'll get our attention. That's what perks our ears up, and that's what makes us pay attention. So I just wanted to create this quickly to kind of give you some extra thoughts into where my thinking is going, and maybe flesh out the ideas in the post a little bit more. So thank you for watching. If you like this, if you like the post, please share it with your friends.